your good buddy SPJ here, back again with another episode of Stompbox Saturday, and this week we have something a little bit different on the Stompy block. It's not quite a pedal, it's more an amp, but it's pedal-sized and looks like a pedal. It is the orange Terror stamp, and could the Tiny Terror be any tinier? Yes, I just threw on a little Chandler for you guys, but hey, sometimes you just gotta go to those places. Now, when I first heard this thing at NAMM, I was pretty intrigued by it, because as the years go on, guitar rigs seem to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and, well, certain options for on-the-go amplification just aren't as good as they should be. So it was nice to see my favorite amp company of all time enter that fray with the Terror stamp. Of course, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise, Orange started the whole lunchbox amplifier craze, so it's only fitting that they bring the lunchbox down even further to a pedal size. So let's quit yammering, throw the pedal up on the screen, and take a look at what you can do with the Terror stamp that looks like a pedal, but is actually an amplifier. We get words and we get symbols, which is pretty awesome. Two different volume controls, a really cool thing, so that maybe volume 1 is going to be the volume that you set to sit right in nice and tight with the band, but when it comes time to take your solo, go ahead and click the volume foot switch over to volume 2 for a little bit of a solo boost. You know, your bandmates might not like you so much, but you don't like them either. At least I don't. I don't know how your relationship is with your bandmates. Mine is pretty good. Then we have the shape control. Rather than going with, say, like a tone knob, this is more of like a mid-range sweep, in that in the counterclockwise we'll start to get more mid-heavy, muffly kind of amplifier sounds, but the more we turn it clockwise, we're gonna get that scoop in the mid-range, get something big and hefty sounding. And then finally, a gain control, which, thanks to the fact that there is an actual 12AX7 tube inside this is a real tube amplifier with a solid state 20 watt Class D power amp, which is pretty darn cool. Other than that, you have your guitar input, of course, an effects loop on the back, a built-in cab sim, and of course an 8 to 16 ohm speaker output so that you can send it to your favorite speaker cab. Now, one of the things that I do want to point out before we get into the sounds is something that some people will have a problem with, and that is the power supply that is included with the Terror stamp. Here's a look at that side by side. The Terror stamp is roughly twice the size of the power supply. But the fact of the matter is, you need big power in order to make a tube run at full plate voltage. Otherwise, it's just a glorified marketing thing and doesn't affect the tone in any way, shape, or form at all. So, with all that out of the way, it's time to actually hear the Terror stamp. Now, the way that it's going to work is this. The Terror stamp is going to get plugged into my Orange PPC 212 speaker cab, Celestion Vintage 30s, 16 ohm speaker cab, and mic'd up with a Shure SM57, pretty much the go-to guitar recording setup. And we're going to sweep the gain controls, see how much gain is on tap, different kind of gain structure sounds that we can get, and we're also going to sweep that shape control, see what exactly that's going to do for a couple different guitars. Of course, I got my trusty Les Paul, but we'll bring in the Jennings Navigator as well. So allow me to put my in-ear monitor inside my right ear, and let's get down to business, shall we? that gets pretty hairy up at the higher range of the gain. I'm going to turn it back to where I like it, somewhere between 12 and 1 o'clock. Like that little bit of hefty crunch, but it's not too saturated. So now let's take a listen to the shape control. Gonna leave the gain where it is, and let's get the volume up just a little bit more. Let's hear this thing. And that's really where I like it, somewhere between this little line right here and that line right there. It just kind of is a nice balance of getting a good amount of low end, some high end articulation, and the mids just sitting right where they need to in order for my style of playing. I'm probably not going to be using most of the counterclockwise throw. It's just a little too muffled for my liking as far as a baseline amp tone, but if you want to, you can technically use this as a preamp pedal in that it goes into the front end of a guitar amp. So maybe into something like a scooped amp sound, like a Fender Twin or Super Reverb, Deluxe Reverb, something like that. Maybe you'll use more of that mid-range emphasis in the shape control. But for the way that I like to use it, especially, which I think is the intent of the Terror Stamp, as something that you can throw on your pedal board as the bass line of your guitar setup, this is the way to do it, at least for me. But I do want to plug in the Navigator and take a listen to this sound, so bear with me a moment while I change guitars. Want to show you the built-in cab sim on the Terror Stamp. Now, typically, I've not been a huge fan of the built-in cab sims on orange stuff, but let's see if this is any different than some of the other ones we've taken a listen to. So I thought the best way to wrap up this video would be to throw the Tele stamp on a pedal board, put a bunch of my favorite pedals on there, and show you in context of what I think the real use of the Tele stamp is, how I would use it. And so here it is. A pretty simple, what I guess I could call the essentials pedal board, from a tuner, some reverb and delay, to compressor chorus, various different types of dirt boxes. This really is the core of every single effect that I would need in order to get through a Cockeyed Optimist gig. If I take off the delay, because I like a little bit of reverb on the sound, that's kind of what we start out with. Clean it up a little bit. And so that's basically the idea, using the crunchy sound enough that I can clean it up a little bit, maybe throw on some compression to get a little bit of a dynamic evenness out of it. And then if I want to just blast the thing, here's fuzz. Fuzz into an orange just has to work, and thankfully this works. I didn't really feel like the Tele stamp did high gain all that well. So what's a guy to do when he plays in a band that needs a high gain sound, but his amp doesn't do it? Well, we either go for a distortion pedal, a high gain distortion pedal, or we go for an overdrive. Now, of course, I have my Rev G3 and my MXR Timmy on this board, and those fill those roles. If I turn on the Timmy, this is how we start. Kick it on. Tighter in the low end because we can filter out the low end thanks to the EQ controls on there. Get a little bit of extra grit and some boost into the front end, as well as keep some of that articulation for stuff like this. And if you want to soften the attack a little bit, hey, the tone knob is there for a reason, isn't it? Overall, I find that this Timmy has really worked itself nicely into my everyday usage, and it works very well as far as boosting the crunchy sound of the Tele stamp. However, as I have highlighted, the clean sounds on this are really, really good. So allow me to make some adjustments on the Tele stamp in order to get a sort of a clean pedal platform tone. Just a little bit of vibe and harmonic content from the gain knob. Not too much. We want to keep this clean, but then throw on the compressor. sounds really, really good. And then, of course, we need to riff, so Rev G3 to the rescue. And that's one of the things that you might have to play around with, the gain knob and the volume from your high gain distortion pedal. It's just, sometimes you gotta make adjustments that you wouldn't normally think that you'd have to make in order to get the sound that you're after. But I'm very happy with how well this takes it. Of course, the Timmy into it. Oh, I don't want both of them. Just the Timmy here. Really, really nice, gritty, kind of vibey sound. So, with everything that we just heard from the Terror Stamp, how do I feel about it? Well, if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you should know that I am highly biased towards Orange. They are my favorite amp company of all time. After all, this channel was built on this Les Paul and that Rock Reverb 100. And I definitely loved the Terror amp concept when it first came out and still love it to this day. And I think that this is a really cool direction to take it in. Something that you can easily slap on a pedal board, put something together, take on the gig with you so that all you really have to show up with is a guitar and a gig bag, pedal board and a gig bag, and a speaker cable and a speaker cap. That's your guitar rig, and it's cool. I love the clean sound on this. I think that was my most surprising thing with it, that it's performed so great as a pedal platform. And I definitely think it excels in the distortion category as a crunchy, vintagey sounding British amplifier. Anything on the higher gain range is just a little too fuzzy for me. So if I want gain out of this thing, I'm gonna have to boost it with something like the Timmy, like I just showed you, or a Tube Screamer, something that'll filter out some of that low end and make things just a little bit tighter. There are a couple things that I think Orange could stand to improve on this platform for some future releases. The biggest one is just the cab sim. With all the different IRs that are out there these days, analog built-in cab sims just have to get better. There's no real excuse anymore. I know with all of these IRs that I now have from Lancaster Audio, I'm probably just gonna plug this direct into the interface and load something up if I wanna do anything direct to DAW. And I would also like to see a version of this just with that classic Tiny Terror tone control. I really loved the way that that tone control worked because it was a surprisingly versatile control. Shape is great, but I don't really need a whole lot of the orange, that mid-range that I like, is already inherently there in the Orange sound. I just need something to help brighten or darken the sound as I see fit to the guitar that I plug into it. So who knows where this stamp concept is going to go? I would love to maybe see the Dark Terror put into the stamp package. That's a personal thing for me because I love high gain amplifiers. But until we see another one of these, I want to know what you guys thought of the Terror Stamp. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And when you see it, click the subscribe button, ring the bell right next to it to turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy out there during these weird times. It's been a pleasure having you for a little while. And until next time, my friends, I'm Sean Pierce Johnson, wishing you all out there great tone, good health, and happy stomping. Cheers.